Today is the 7th day of the July-August 1986 retreat. We will read first from the selections from a book called Zen Teaching of Wang Po, translated by John Blofeld. The talks and dialogues were written down, recorded by a disciple of Wang Po who was a government official and scholar of Buddhism. Wang Po lived in the 9th century. These selections which are being read are edited insofar as words, sentences, paragraphs are left out to make the material as accessible as possible. To me, the only thing that matters and is of importance is that we understand the mind. The word Buddha is used by Wang Po not to refer to the historical personage of the Buddha, but it is also a Sanskrit word denoting the enlightened mind, enlightenment, or the absolute truth, or an enlightened person. First selection in this book says, "The Master said to me, all the Buddhas and all sentient beings are nothing but the one mind, beside which nothing exists. This mind, which is without beginning, is unborn and indestructible. It is not green nor yellow and has neither form nor appearance. It does not belong to the categories of things which exist or do not exist, nor can it be thought of in terms of young or old. It is neither long nor short, big nor small, for it transcends all limits, measures, names, traces, and comparisons. It is that which you see before you. Begin to reason about it, and you at once fall into error. It is like the boundless void which cannot be fathomed or measured. The one mind alone is the Buddha, and there is no distinction between the Buddha and sentient beings, but that sentient beings are attached to forms and so seek Buddhahood externally. By their very seeking, they lose it. For that is using mind to grasp mind. Even though they do their utmost for a full eon, they will not be able to attain to it. People do not know that if they put a stop to conceptual thought and forget their anxiety, the Buddha will appear before them. For this mind is the Buddha, and the Buddha is all living beings. It is not the less for being manifested in ordinary beings, nor is it greater for being manifested in the Buddhas. It's a dialogue between disciple and teacher. The disciple says, from all you have said, from all you have just said, mind is the Buddha. But it is not clear as to what sort of mind is meant by this mind which is the Buddha. And Wang Po says, how many minds have you got? Pei Su asks, but is the Buddha the ordinary mind or the enlightened mind? And Wang Po asks, where on earth do you keep your ordinary mind and your enlightened mind? And also ask, who's the keeper of it, the owner of it? And the questioner persists, in the teaching of the three vehicles, it is stated that there are both. Why does your reverence deny it? Wang Po says, in the teaching of the three vehicles, these are bodies of holy books, sutras, in the teaching of the three vehicles, it is clearly explained that the ordinary and enlightened minds are illusions. You don't understand. All this clinging to the idea of things existing is to mistake vacuity for the truth. How can such conceptions not be illusory? I also say, how can such conceptions not be seen as just being conceptions? The product of thinking and wishing. Being illusory, Wang Po says, they hide mind from you. If you would only rid yourselves of the concept of ordinary and enlightened, you would find that there's no other Buddha than the Buddha in your own mind. You people go on misunderstanding. You hold to concepts such as ordinary and enlightened, directing your thoughts outwards where they gallop about like horses. All this amounts to beclouding your own minds. And the disciple asks, upon what doctrine does your reverence base these words? Wang Po says, why seek a doctrine? As soon as you have a doctrine, you fall into dualistic thought. I did omit something. Let me go back to Wang Po's talk. He had said all this amounts to beclouding your own minds. As soon as thought or sensation arises, you fall into dualism. Beginningless time and the present moment are the same. Beginningless time and the present moment are the same. There is no this and no that. To understand this truth is called complete and unexcelled enlightenment. Now he says, upon what doctrine does your reverence base these words? And Wang Po says, why seek a doctrine? As soon as you have a doctrine, you fall into dualistic thought, meaning you're thinking the right doctrine, the wrong doctrine, but you're not looking anymore to what's actually happening. And that possibility exists to see for oneself. If one isn't tied to doctrines, which is a different brain process, thinking and contemplating doctrines, then looking. For that, the brain needs to be reasonably quiet, not concerned with doctrine, meaning with memory, recitation, memorization. The disciple says, just now you said that the beginningless past and the present are the same. What do you mean by that? Wang Po, it is just because of your seeking that you make a difference between them. thought creates past, present, and future. It originates in memory, and in imagination it anticipates and creates the future. What will happen to me, whether I will be happy, whether I'll be sick, getting old. When this time thinking is quiet, where is there the division of this moment? Wang Po says, if you were to stop seeking, meaning wanting something, becoming something, somebody, getting enlightenment, if you were to stop seeking, how could there be any difference between them, meaning beginningless time in this present moment? Pei Su says, if they are not different, why did you employ separate terms for them? And Wang Po, if you hadn't mentioned ordinary and enlightened, who would have bothered to say such things? Just as those categories have no real existence, so mind is not really mind. And as both mind and those categories are really illusions, wherever can you hope to find anything? Pei Su says, illusion can hide from us our own mind. But up to now you have not taught us how to get rid of illusion. Wang Po, the arising and the elimination of illusion are both illusory, both ideas. Or can one see it directly? Then it's not an idea. Then it's not an illusion. And thought is thought, and that's all there is to it. Wang Po says, illusion is not something rooted in reality. It exists because of your dualistic thinking. If you will only cease to indulge in opposed concepts such as ordinary and enlightened, illusion will cease of itself. And then, if you still want to destroy it, wherever it may be, you will find that there is not a hair's breadth left of anything on which to lay hold. This is the meaning of, I will let go with both hands, for then I shall certainly discover the Buddha or truth in my own mind, in my mind. It's not that the truth is in the mind. They're not two. Later on, Pei Su asks, how then does a man accomplish this comprehension of his own mind? 1,000 years have passed, but the questions are the same. Wang Po, that which asked the question is your own mind. But if you were to remain quiescent and to refrain from the smallest mental activity, its substance would be seen as void. You would find it formless, occupying no point in space, and falling neither into the category of existence nor into that of non-existence. Remember earlier he said, that which is before you is it. Begin to reason about it and you immediately fall into error. Error meaning taking the idea of it as the real thing, and being concerned with the idea, occupied with it, treasuring it, getting inspiration from it. Later on, Wang Po says, there is no self and no other. There is no wrong desire, no anger, no hatred, no like, no victory, no failure. Only renounce the error of intellectual or conceptual thought processes, and your nature will exhibit its pristine purity. Unless you understand this, the whole of your great learning, your painful efforts to advance, your austerities of diet and clothing, will not help you to a knowledge of your own mind. All such practices must be termed fallacious, for any of them will lead you to rebirth among demons, enemies of the truth, or among the crude nature spirits, where his tradition comes in. Being reborn as a demon is a punishment for a believing Buddhist, believing in rebirth as demons or animals or hellish beings or angels. What end is served by pursuits like those, he says? Our bodies are the creations of our own minds. How can one expect to gain knowledge from books? If only you could comprehend the nature of your own mind, there would naturally be no room for even a grain of error to arise. Later he says, as it is, so long as your mind is subject to the slightest movement of thought, you will remain engulfed in the error of taking ignorant and enlightened for separate states. This error will persist regardless of your vast knowledge or your ability to pass through the 4 grades of sainthood, the 10 stages of progress leading to enlightenment. For all these pursuits belong to what is ephemeral. Even the most strenuous of your efforts is doomed to fail, just as an arrow shot ever so high into the air must inevitably fall spent to the ground. Actually, there is a vast difference between the state of inattention and the state of attention. But if we make concepts out of them, there's no difference. They're both concepts. In inattention, there is no attention, no awareness. But awareness can reveal inattention. But it is not of it. There's no part in it. It just reveals it as something that just happened. Because the mind has still a memory of it that can be revealed in awareness. Later on, Wang Po says, were you now to keep your minds motionless, whether walking, standing, sitting, or lying, concentrating entirely upon no duality, no reliance on others, no attachments, just allowing all things to take their course the whole day long, as though you were too ill to bother? Some people have direct understanding of this. One has had maybe a flu with high fever, pneumonia or something. And at a moment like that, at a time like that, maybe there is not an ounce of energy left to resist what's there. That's what he means here. Too ill to bother, resisting, fighting, creating conflict. Just that. He goes on, unknown to the world, innocent of any urge to be known or unknown to others. Then truth would penetrate your understanding through and through. In a little while you would find yourselves firmly unattached. Thus, for the first time in your lives, you would discover your reactions to phenomena decreasing. Later on he says, then even in this life your minds and bodies become those of being liberated. Supposing that this does not result in freeing you immediately from further rebirths, this rebirth comes in again. I don't have to continue that, that's his belief. One has to look into this. If one believes in rebirth or paradise, heaven and hell, what is a belief? Where does one get this from? Does one know this directly, or has one taken it over from what one was told? Parents, teachers, Sunday school, evening school. And to look deeper at what is it that wants to continue. One knows one is going to die. That's the only certainty we have. It's totally predictable. Not when, but that we will die. But we don't want to die because we're attached to the story of our life. And that we want to continue, maybe in the form of a soul, whatever that may be. If one really wonders what a soul is, find out. Look for it. You must, if it's there, you must find it. It must be detectable. Some people have done it. Not found it, but looked for it and found nothing. But don't take anybody's word for it if you want to find out. Right now, at this moment, if one hasn't gone through this search or investigation oneself, I think it's clear that the word soul is a concept which one has taken over from tradition, and so is the concept of rebirth, reincarnation, which is an Eastern belief, Far Eastern, Middle Eastern. Anything to be able in thought to continue, and with that living a tunnel vision, not being part of the totality of all life. In which there's constant renewal, but not of the same entity that was there before, just constant renewal, dying and new growth, new birth. Not rebirth of something that existed before. It's always new. What's old is memory and thought. Later on he says, Wang Po says, though others may talk of the way of the Buddhas as something to be reached by various pious practices and by sutra study, sutra, the speeches written down, the dialogues of the Buddha. You must have nothing to do with such ideas. A perception, listen to this one, a perception sudden as blinking, that subject and object are one. There's no division. Will lead to a deeply mysterious, wordless understanding. And by this understanding, you will awake to the truth of Zen. And just say the truth. It's not the truth of something. When you happen upon someone who has no understanding, you must claim to know nothing. He may be delighted by his discovery of some way to enlightenment. Yet if you allow yourselves to be persuaded by him, you will experience no delight at all, but suffer both sorrow and disappointment. Even if you do obtain from him some trifling method, it will only be a thought-constructed thing having nothing to do with Zen or with the truth. Truth Wait a minute. Oh yeah, here it is. I eliminated a paragraph. Truth depends on nothing and is attached to nothing. Depends on nothing, is caused by nothing. It is without cause. It is there. It's uncaused. Attached to nothing. It is all-pervading, spotless beauty. It is the self-existent and uncreated absolute. Ah, it is a jewel beyond all price. At one point he says, all this talk of Bodhi, Nirvana, the Absolute, the Buddha nature, so forth and so forth, is like taking autumn leaves for gold. To use the symbol of the closed fist, when it is opened, all beings, both gods and men, will perceive there is not a single thing inside. Therefore it is written, there has never been a single thing. Then where is the defiling dust to cling? Later on he says, when the moment of understanding comes, do not think in terms of understanding, not understanding, or not understanding, for none of this is something to be grasped. The truth of thusness, when grasped, is grasped, but he who grasps it is no more conscious of having done so than someone ignorant of it is conscious of his failure, which means it's the absence of self-consciousness. I have grasped this. The moment that thought comes up, the wholeness of perception is divided again into me, the perceiver, and what I perceive. And then a dimness sets in, a narrowness. Because with the idea of I have perceived inevitably comes pride, even though one may be taught carefully to behave humbly. But there can be enormous vanity in humility. Later on he says, as for those people who seek to grasp truth through the application of some particular principle, or by creating a special environment, or through some scripture, or doctrine, or age, or time, or name, or word, or through their six senses, how do they differ from wooden dolls? Later he says, refrain from seeking Buddhahood, since any search is doomed to failure. Some madman shrieking on the mountaintop on hearing the echo far below may go to seek it in the valley. But oh, how vain his search! Once in the valley he shrieks again, and straightway climbs to search among the peaks. Why, he may spend 1,000 rebirths or 10,000 eons searching for the source of those sounds by following their echoes. Far better that you make no sound, for then there will be no echo. No knowing, no sound, no track, no trace. Pessu asks, what is implied by, quote, seeing into the real nature, unquote? What is implied by seeing into the real nature? And Wang Po responds, that nature and your perception of it are one. Seeing into the nature, that's the word kensho, this word which somebody who has trained at a Zen center, that thing sticks. Do I have it? Do others have it? I must have it. I don't have it yet. How is it? The literal translation of this word means seeing into the nature, into truth. And in Wang Po's words, that seeing, that nature and your perception of it are one. You can also say, the seeing is the nature, the seeing is the truth. It's not seeing into something, it's not two things, not a transitive affair. Me seeing the truth. And there is no me, the truth is evident, revealed, clear, unadorned, as it is. Wang Po continues, you cannot use it to see something over and above itself. The nature, using my true nature to see something. That nature and your hearing of it are one. Listening and the sound are not two. There are no doubts in the mind and no searching, wanting, fearing, expecting. Then it's not difficult that there is just that. That's all. If you object to it or cling to it, then it's two, me and that. Me and my cough, or he and his cough, and my hearing of it, my disturbance of it, or whatever. Witty, 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 witty. Who's hearing it? It's just witty, 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 witty. Wang Po goes on, If you form a concept of the true nature of anything as being visible or audible, you allow a division to arise. Let me repeat that the perceived cannot perceive. Can, I ask you, be a head attached to the crown of your head? So why this talk, he says later, of I see, I hear, I receive an intuition through enlightenment, I hear the truth from the lips of an enlightened one. I assure you that all things have been free from bondage since the very beginning, so why attempt to explain them? You people still conceive of mind as existing or not existing, as pure or defiled, as something to be studied in the way that one studies a piece of categorical knowledge, or as a concept. The man who perceives things always wants to identify them, to get a hold on them. Those who use their minds like eyes in this way are sure to suppose that progress is a matter of stages. If you're that kind of a person, you are as far from the truth as earth is far from heaven. But actually, earth isn't far from heaven. They touch everywhere. We just think there's a separation. The last selection, Pe Su asking, but how can we prevent ourselves from falling into the error of making distinctions between this and that? Actually, there's nothing wrong with making distinctions. There are distinctions. A glass of water is not this or not this microphone. But if you say, I hate the microphone, I don't want to have it near me, then there's a problem. I hate the sphere. Tell me a method to get rid of it, then there's a problem. One wants a solution without understanding the problem. Whereas what needs to be done is to be intimate, in intimate touch with a problem. Then there is no problem. There's only the intimate touch with what is. And that changes when there's no division, no resistance. How can we prevent ourselves from falling into the error of making distinctions between this and that? And Wang Po says, by realizing that though you eat the whole day through, no single grain has passed your lips, and that a day's journey has not taken you a single step forward. Also by uniformly abstaining from such notions as self and other. Do not permit the events of your daily lives to bind you, but neither withdraw yourselves from them. Avoid the error of thinking in terms of past, present, and future. The past has gone, the present is a fleeting moment, and the future has not yet come. When you practice mind control, he says here, but that must be a strange translation because throughout this book, Wang Po never talks about mind control. Let's say when you sit, here he says, sit in the proper position, proper for your own condition, not following examples of Buddhas and whatever, yogis. Sit in what feels right. So one can sit for a while without restlessly thrashing about, without inducing unnecessary pain. Stay perfectly tranquil and do not permit the least movement of your minds to disturb you. This alone is what is called liberation. For the remainder of the time, we will read some excerpts from the last talk given by Krishnamurti, who died a month after giving this talk. This talk was given January 4th, 1986, in Madras, India. It has appeared in the Bulletin of the Krishnamurti Foundation of America, number 53, special issue, spring-summer 86. Will you kindly participate in what the speaker is talking about? Will you not only follow it, but together participate in it? Not just think about it or casually pay attention to it. One or two things must be made very clear. This is not a personality cult. The speaker has an abomination of all that. Everything he's saying is contradicted if you personally worship an individual or make him into a god. What is important is to listen to what he has to say, share it, not only to listen but actually to participate in what he is saying. We have talked about life, the very complexity of life, the beginning of life. What is life? What is the origin of all this? The marvelous earth, the lovely evening and the early morning sun, the rivers, the valleys, the mountains, and the glory of the land which is being despoiled. If you say the origin of all this is God, then it's finished. Then you can trot along quite happily because you've solved the problem. But if you begin to question, doubt, as one should, all gods, all gurus, if you begin to question all that man has put together through a long evolution down the corridors of history, you find this question asked: what is the beginning? What is the origin? How has it all come about? I hope you're asking this question. Don't just listen to the speaker, but share it, tear it to pieces. Don't please accept anything he says. He's not your guru. He's not your leader. He is not your helper. That is the platform, that is the beginning of this talk. This is a very serious talk, and unless your brain is actually active, one is afraid that you won't be able to follow. It would be useless for you and for the speaker to listen to a lot of words. But if we could together take a very long journey, not in terms of time, not in terms of belief or conclusions or theories, but examining very carefully the way of our lives, fear, uncertainty, insecurity, and all the inventions that man has made, including the extraordinary computers. If we take a long journey into this, where are we at the end of 2 million years? Where are we going? Not as some theory, not what some wretched book says, however holy it is, but where are we going? Where are we all going? And where have we begun? They're both related to each other, where we're going and where we began. The beginning may be the ending. Don't agree? Find out. There may be no beginning and no ending, and we're going to investigate into that together. From the beginning of time, right down to the present day, man has always thought in terms of religion. What is religion? Man has always sought something more than this world. Man worshipped the stars, the suns, the moons, and their own creations. There has been tremendous endeavor, effort, energy spent on ancient temples, mosques, and the churches, of course. They have spent tremendous energy on this. What is the spirit of man that has sought something beyond the world, the daily agony, the travail, the work, going to the factory, to the office, and climbing the ladder of success, making money, trying to impress people, trying to command? Are you agreeing to this? It is a fact whether you agree or not. They're all seeking power in some form. They want to be at the center of things, in Delhi or here or in other places. They want to be there. We're asking, what is religion? What has made man give enormous treasures to a temple? What has made him do all this? What was the energy that was given to all this? Was it fear? Was it seeking a reward from heaven, or whatever you like to call it? Was seeking a reward? Was seeking a reward the origin? You want a reward. You want something in exchange. You pray 3 or 5 times a day, and you hope in return some entity will give you something, from a refrigerator to a car to a better wife or better husband. Or you wait for grace, something that you can hope for, cling to. This has been the history of all religions. God and money are always together. We're trying to find out by inquiring very, very deeply what religion is. It is obviously not all this money-making stuff. We're asking, what is that which is nameless, which is the supreme intelligence, which has no relationship with all our prayers, with all our gods, with all our temples, mosques, churches? That is all man-made. Any intelligent man must put all that aside and not become cynical, not become merely skeptical, but really have an inquiring brain, a brain that's active, a brain that inquires into everything, not only the outside world. Have we got a brain that is inquiring into its own thoughts, into its own consciousness, into its own pains, sufferings, all the rest of it? Have we got such a brain? I'll skip several paragraphs. So, what is creation? So what is life? Life in the tree, life in the little grass. Life, not what scientists invent, but the beginning of life. The thing that lives. You may kill it, but it's still there in the other. Don't agree or disagree, but see what we're inquiring, that we're inquiring into the origin of life. We're going to inquire into the absolute, something that's really marvelous. It's not a reward. You can't take it home and use it. What is meditation to you? What is meditation? After skipping another paragraph, how can one explain a meditation that has no measurement, that has no achievement, that does not say, I am this, but I'll become that. That being God or super angel. Is there a meditation which has nothing to do with will? An energy that says, I must meditate? Is there a meditation which has nothing to do with effort at all? The speaker says there is. You don't have to accept it. He may be talking nonsense, but he sees logically that the ordinary meditation is self-hypnosis, deceiving oneself. And when you stop deceiving, stop all that mechanical process, is there a different kind of meditation? And unfortunately, the speaker says yes. You can't get at it through effort, through giving all your energy to something. It is something that has to be absolutely silent. First of all, begin very humbly, very, very humbly, and therefore very gently, and therefore no pushing, driving, saying, I must do this. It requires a tremendous sense not only of aloneness, but a sense, I mustn't describe it to you because then you'll go off on descriptions. If I describe it, the description is not the real. The description of the moon is not the moon, and the painting of the Himalayas is not the Himalayas. So we'll stop describing. It's for you to play with or not play with it, going your own way with your own peculiar achievements through meditation, reward and all the rest of it. So, in meditation, which is absolutely no effort, no achievement, no thinking, the brain is quiet. Not made quiet by will, by intention, by conclusion and all that nonsense. It is quiet. And being quiet, it has infinite space. Are you waiting for me to explore? So is your brain ever quiet? I'm asking you. Your brain is thinking, fearing, thinking of your office work, your family, what they will do, your sons and your daughters. Thinking, which is time and thought. Is your brain ever quiet? Not made quiet by drugs and whiskey and various forms of drugging yourself. You drug yourself when you believe. You drug yourself and say, yes, this is perfectly right, the Buddha has said that, therefore it must be right. You're drugging yourself all the time. Therefore, you have no energy of that kind that demands the penetration of something immense. So we're now going back to find out what creation is. What is creation? It has nothing to do with invention. What is creation? The origin, the beginning. What is life? Tell me what you think of. What is life? Not going to the office and all the rest of it, sex and children, or no children but sex, and so on and so on and so on. What is a life? What gives life to that blade of grass in the cement? What is life in us? Not all the things that we go through, power, position, prestige, fame, or no fame, but shame. That's not life. That's part of our mishandling of life. But what is life? Why are you listening to me? What makes you, if you're listening at all, listen to the man? What is the motive behind your listening? What do you want? What's your desire? Behind the desire, there's a motive. So what is desire? Desire is part of sensation, isn't it? I see this beautiful clock or ugly clock, it's a sensation. The seeing brings about a sensation. From that sensation, thought comes and makes an image of it. That is, I see the clock, rather nice, I would like to have it. The sensation of seeing, then thought coming and making an image of that sensation. At that moment, desire is born. It's very simple. Is there a brain, your brain, which is not muddied up, muddied by environment, by tradition, by society, and all the rest of it? What is the origin of life? Are you waiting for me to answer it? This is much too serious a subject for you to play with, because we are trying to inquire into something that has no name, no end. I can kill that bird. There's another bird. I can kill all birds. There are too many of them in the world. So we're inquiring into what makes a bird. What is creation behind all this? Are you waiting for me to describe it, go into it? You want me to go into it? Why? From the audience, to understand what creation is. Why do you ask that? Because I asked. No description can ever describe the origin. The origin is nameless. The origin is absolutely quiet. It is not worrying about making noise. Creation is something that is most holy. That's the most sacred thing in life. And if you have made a mess of your life, change it. Change it today, not tomorrow. If you're uncertain, find out why and be certain. If your thinking is not straight, think straight, logically. Unless all that is prepared, all that is settled, you can't enter into this world, into the world of creation. It ends. This is the last talk. Do you want to sit together quietly for a while? All right, sirs, sit quietly for a while. May we get up now? May we get up and go now? We will end here for today.